Good morning, everybody, and thank you to Media Post for having us. It's really exciting to be here. I'm Justin Garrett, the moderator for today's conference, and I also happen to be the Chief Revenue Officer with Q Digital. Quick introduction about myself. Q Digital is a leading LGBTQ media company with 5 owned and operated properties, where our mission is to create a world where everyone feels safe to be themselves and live their life to the fullest. We also do a really good job of connecting brands with our community, too. And before we get into everything, I just wanted to take a moment to wish everyone a happy Pride Month. It's June. And so, as we all know, Pride began, in 1969 when members of our community stood up against police brutality. And we've made a lot of gains since then, but we're under some challenges right now, where some of these hard-fought equal rights are being challenged. So, to the allies in this room, your support matters. And Pride isn't just a celebration in June, it's an ongoing movement. And so thank you for standing with us. So just wanted to mention that. So again, thanks to Media Post for asking me to moderate the panel. It was an easy yes when I found out who was going to be on it, because I've admired these folks from a distance, and then in getting to know them as we did some panel prep, I was even just more blown away. So, and I know you all will be too, with the level of expertise that they bring to their respective fields. So let's go ahead and go down the line. Keith, you want to do your introduction?
Yeah,
Tell us who you are.
Hi, everybody. Thanks to Media Post for hosting and for all of you for attending. Keith Bonnici. I'm president, CEO, and partner at the Daily Beast, having joined in April of last year when myself and my partners Ben and Joanna took over operations of the long-loved brand that needed a little bit of a new love. And so excited to be here and chat about various topics.
Thank you for having me. Oh, that's a little loud. I'm Shira Center, VP for Innovation and Strategic Initiatives at Boston Globe Media. If you're not familiar with Boston Globe Media, we are a regional media company. We publish the Boston Globe, of course, but also Boston.com, a free website, Stat, B-Side, our Generation Z newsletter, and we recently acquired Boston Magazine. So we are many publications in Boston, and we focus on audiences and industries central to our community.
Hi, good morning. Julie Galvin. I am Vice President of Growth Strategy and Partner Solutions at National Geographic, owned by the Walt Disney Company. Probably to best describe my role, I oversee monetization for National Geographic Media, which is the editorial side of our house. So that includes managing our subscription service business. Many of you know the National Geographic magazine, around for 135 years, but we have evolved that to be a print and digital subscription model, and also have some subscription products for kids. And I oversee brand licensing outside of the U.S. for subscription services, and a team that partners with the advertising sales team at Disney, a very large organization, to package up and monetize our editorial, social, and digital platforms.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Oren Katzeff, CEO of Literally Media. We are a collection of iconic legacy internet brands like Cracked, eBaum's World, Cheeseburger, Know Your Meme, and others. We operate in the comedy, meme, and internet culture space, so we've built a portfolio site of companies where we're online, doing events, doing subscription, really trying to build a modern media company where if you were to look at building a new Comedy Central, what would that look like? That's kind of how we think about ourselves. What elements would you have today that would be unique and different? And ultimately, that's what we're trying to build. Trying to make people laugh and have fun doing it, and laughing all the way to the bank. Ideally opening the door and actually depositing money. We're working on that part, but we're at least laughing to the bank.
And thank you for that. God knows we need it these days. So just to go down the line one more time, I'm going to put you all on the spot just a little bit. What's one more thing that's not in your bio that you can tell us about yourselves? And when you were checking in, did you take the beer or did you take the water?
Start. I don't like being first. That's one thing about me, I guess. But I'm stuck in this chair. All right, something about me. English is not my first language, and I work really hard to not have an accent, and I do a good job at it, except I'll usually get caught on an idiom. I'll say something like, you don't want to put the horse before the cart, which is like, I think that's wrong, right? Anyways, but, and I usually always would take the beer, but this time I did take the water because travel, a little bit of dehydration, so.
So same, I took the water for the same reasons. Something that's not on my bio, I'll continue with the international theme. I have dual citizenship with Germany.
I took the water too. Boring. Not normal, though. I guess one thing that's not in my bio is that I, several years back, was also dabbling in being a small business owner for several years. And while not explicitly on my resume, I will say that it is way harder than what I'm doing today. And doing both together, impossible.
I took the water as well, but I didn't know beer was an option. So I don't know if I was flagged for some reason. They said, don't offer this guy beer. Something I don't think is on my bio. When I was younger and more miserable, I was a lot funnier, and I used to do comedy. And I actually once got to participate at a roast at the legendary Friars Club, which was the most amazing night of comedy of my life, and also one of the reasons why I decided to not never do comedy again, but it scared me from doing comedy, which is a story I'll share over a beer if they give me beer tonight.
We're going to get you a beer. Can I get? No, shade. Maybe later. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. We all know that we're in, tough market conditions. It's been outlined. We all sort of, we're feeling it, right? Julie, I'll come to you first. How are you finding wins in a declining spend market these days?
So, as I mentioned, National Geographic is one of many brands within the Walt Disney Company. And our advertisers then obviously have a pretty extensive choice of media. So for Nat Geo, I would say, focusing on a win is really sticking to what we do best. And one example is really focusing on the travel and tourism industry. So travel and tourism is a natural fit for Nat Geo. As a brand, we are all about explaining and showcasing destinations and inspiring travel. There is thousands of tourism boards globally, and while they're not huge spenders, there's certainly scale there. So one thing that we've really doubled down on is putting an offering together against an industry that makes sense for them. So we think about editorial destination guides, something that is really at the heart of National Geographic content, but really what makes, our destination guides a little special is that we're leveraging assets from the National Geographic network of photographers, that's in video and photos, and we're building advertising packages that are really appropriate and tiered so we can work with some of these tourism boards at different budget levels, which is really important. So that takes into account, their ability to tap into our photographers, some at low cost, and, really be able to scale some of the packages up and develop, editorial sponsorship that layers on more media and potentially custom content. I think for us, we do a lot of monetization around our digital and social. We have the luxury of being the #1 brand in terms of social followers. So over 780 million global social followers. So it's easy for us to monetize in that space in particular. And we really do look at that as a key vertical for us. So we have handles that are specific to travel, which makes it even more appealing for advertisers. So for us, it's stick to what's working. Bigger custom bespoke campaigns are great. Those are home runs. But we think about it as in order to win, we've got to have a lot of singles and doubles too. And that's kind of where we're focused.
That makes a lot of sense, sticking with what works. I think that's, it's hard sometimes with revenue. You got a lot of plate spinning, right? So you got to focus on what's already working. Another headwind that we're all facing too as publishers is, referral traffic declining. Meta's always changing its algorithms, which doesn't make it easy. Now we've got some, new challenges with generative AI search with Google. Shira, can I come to you? How are you overcoming challenges around traffic referral declines?
Yeah, it's a great question. So obviously, like we've seen the numbers, I think initial reports show that when the Google AI summary comes up, referral traffic decreases by 95%. If you're a publisher, that is very scary, right? Because you don't see it now, but you know where the puck is headed. And we don't know what's going to happen. There was so much there were many interesting comments earlier about 10 years from now. We don't know what this is going to look like in 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. But as a company, we need to come together and figure this out. So what we have is an AI task force. We are relying on a lot of the ideas and strategies from our newsrooms, but also various business units to come together and think about what the future of what we call a zero-click future might look like. I think like a lot of you, a large percentage of our traffic comes from Google, and that is the top of our funnel. So having that spigot cut off is a serious business concern in the long run.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Keith, I know you had some thoughts here. You've had some success with Reddit and a few other sources?
Yeah, so just setting the stage, when I first came to the Beast, when we took over in April of last year, we inherited a declining traffic, declining revenue, losing a ton of money, really a business that was not in a good place. And within less than a year, we're in a position now where we've had 3 consecutive profitable quarters, first time ever for the company, growing traffic, growing subscribers, 11 straight months of net subscriber adds. And the way that we did that is there's some luck involved, obviously the news cycle and the election, but also we started to focus on, instead of how do we bring users to our site, is how do we meet the users where they are and where they're engaging and have them engage deeper with our content there. And then ultimately, the hope is that that will translate to them becoming affinity followers and fans of what we do. And we've seen the results, and it's working. So our referral traffic is actually up. Google is down, but we've seen dramatic increases from social, and we've seen good increases from sources like Reddit. And the way that we've approached that is we have an innovation sort of team similar to everybody else that focuses on running experiments within each of the platforms and seeing what's working and really leaning into that. So for example, we use AI and we tied into Reddit's API, and we're seeing our content that's performing on Reddit, and then we use that information to create more of that content. Because if something about Stephen Miller's wife leaving with Elon is resonating on Reddit and exploding, if we do 4 or 5 follow-up articles on that, that's likely to be content that people will share on those platforms, which creates sort of a loop back to us and allow them to come visit the site. So, focusing on not just your platform and how do I steal people from X and from Facebook to come to me, but how do I engage with them on those platforms in a more meaningful way? And eventually, hopefully, they trickle down to come directly to our site. Because every platform, Google, Facebook, X, they want to keep the people on their platform. They don't want to send them to you. And they're making it harder. It's almost impossible to bring people to your site from Instagram, for example. And so rather than trying to force something that's not organically meant to be, we really are trying to focus on building more engagement on those platforms and teasing our brand in a way that ultimately trickles down long-term to having them become consistent consumers of us.
Could I add one more thing? Email is still the killer app in a lot of ways. We get a lot of our traffic to our site from emails. We have 250,000 paying digital subscribers, and the day they sign up for a Boston Globe subscription, they are automatically put on our headlines list, and that to this day is one of our great drivers of traffic. So we really take that as part of a larger strategy of anything we can do to double down and deepen our direct relationship with the reader is going to pay dividends in the long run.
Love that. Yeah, so it's not just like one big dial that you can turn for traffic anymore, right? It's like a bunch of little dials that you have to constantly tweak and adjust. Yeah, and so that diversification and referral traffic is key. It's also important, with revenue diversification. I'm turning there, and Oren, I want to come to you and check in with you. Where are you finding new sources of revenue these days? And I don't know, do you think these are like untapped wells or improvements on existing models?
Yeah, I would add to what Keith said. I think there's both. I'd start with social. I think it's easy to either give up on it or be down on it because everything we read is about how Facebook referral traffic's down, Facebook doesn't care, social platforms don't care about us at all. And the reality of it is maybe they do, maybe they don't, but there still is, we believe, untapped opportunity across social. And so for us, I think part of it just begins with the attitude of the company and just making sure that everybody knows, let's be scrappy. No one's going to get fired for coming up with an idea that doesn't work. And there still is hope and opportunity that we've seen on social. So though Facebook referrals have dropped over time, that is true. We have seen some rebound over the last 6, 12 months or so. We are monetizing video at a pretty good level on Facebook. And so our social strategy has changed from where it was 3 years ago. It was very dependent on social. We've diversified and shifted, but Facebook is still a good partner to us in terms of the traffic that we get and the audience that we drive from the platform. So social is an area that we keep tweaking, we keep trying. I would say you just hang around the rim. Even if the other team keeps making shots, they're going to miss at some point. You got to be around the rim and grab the ball and convert. So social is one. Video is two. I've often joked that I think the 3 words that damaged digital media about 10 years ago was pivot to video, and that's because everybody felt like they had to do it, and you saw story after story of we built this big studio and we hired 70 people and we're spending $80 million on video, and then someone's like, okay, now how do you monetize it? And no one had an answer. And so everybody that did that ran into trouble. So I almost feel like video kind of got a bad rap back in the day, and now for us it's really just about how do you create the right video at the right time, at the right place that your audience will want and will want to engage in and share and comment on. And so for us, it's kind of two-pronged. One is we're still monetizing video well on Snapchat, on YouTube, on Facebook, and leveraging their platform and their sales team and monetizing video there. We're also starting to increase the original production of IP that we do in-house that we just call social first video. And that's often where we team up with the brand. They've seen some of the other video work that we do. They trust us. And so we might create an Instagram only or Instagram first series with talent that we've worked with on other projects. And I'll get into that when we talk about events. But that's all original IP that we know our audience likes. We know that brands get excited about, and so it's a win-win. And what Keith said, we've kind of shifted away from having to bring people always to our site, to our O&O, to have them have a great experience. We still drive 40-plus uniques to our site, but we're a lot more open about our content and our brand living everywhere that we know our massive audience wants to see our content. And then third, I'd say we've invested more in syndication. Our feeling, again, 3+ years ago might have been we want people coming to our site. Now our feeling is, look, if people love our content, let's distribute it to where we know that they are. So whether it's MSN, whether it's Yahoo, whether it's Apple News. Now, you do lose some control, of course, when you give other parties your content. But for us, we've gotten beyond that. Our whole take is we know our audiences are on TikTok and they're on MSN and they're on Snapchat and they're on all the different platforms. Let's just be smarter about the kind of content we create. Let's create it once and just be really smart about how we edit and package it for the different platforms that we distribute it to. And that model has worked out well for us. It's yielded revenue. It's helped us grow our audience. I will say it's not like it's consistent every day over time, meaning you might have a great streak on YouTube. You might have a great streak on MSN and just be like, yeah, this is going to be great for months. It isn't. You have to keep tracking it. You have to look at what works every day. You have to look at what other people are doing that works. And it is a constant, maniacal, rigorous thing you have to track to be successful on every single platform with every single piece of content you create. And again, that goes back to the discipline I said we start with, which is we need to be scrappy. We need to pay attention to what works. We need to not get attached to stuff that does work because it might not in a month. And we need to not give up on stuff that didn't work because that might work in a month.
I will add, one point on Facebook. We did notice an uptick.
Yeah.
So it's like you think you're going to give up, you slow down, and then all of a sudden the data's showing something different, and we were like, all right, we've got to get right on this because that algorithm could change tomorrow, and you're done.
Absolutely. And again, we've seen, we've had a great relationship with Facebook through the years, and we've seen ups and downs, but you don't give up on the downs.
Love it. And one way, I know a few of you on the panel are generating significant revenue is through subscriptions. And Julie, I want to come back to you again. I mean, have we maximized where we are on the potential for subscriptions, or do you think there's still ways to innovate there?
So I look at it as more like evolve subscriptions based off of, right now, content is out there for free, so the storytelling has to be innovative. I would say that's number one. So for us, it's, as a brand with a heritage of being a leader in storytelling, we feel like it's kind of our duty to make sure that we continue to innovate, and that means testing new formats. It means working with those that tell our story, photographers, and letting them and giving them the tools to innovate, bringing in a level of interactivity that has maybe not been there before. I think that the storytelling and the content is really important. I think the other two areas that we're really looking at is, we treat National Geographic as more of a lifestyle brand. I do feel like it is. And so how do we, but we're not news. So we want to be part of somebody's everyday life. So the other two areas in terms of subscription evolution is how do we give our subscribers more access to our staff, access to our talent, we call them, access to other things other lines of business, products and services. We do a lot in the streaming space, so we have shows and documentaries. How do we provide access to that? And I think, besides access, it's also looking at utility. So utility could be in the form of providing more tips and tools that somebody can use every day, but it also, we're looking at how do we partner with other brands to provide utility that's in line with some of our storytelling. And as an example, we're really heavy in the health and wellness space through the kind of lens of science. And so we had a nice editorial package for Mental Health Awareness Month last month, and we partnered with the Calm app to give subscribers a free trial. So it's looking for new ways to bring subscriber benefits, even if they're limited time. And I think all of that collectively is, looking at subscription evolution.
I love that. We all I know it's tough to sort of achieve really solid revenue diversification all around, right? You've got, your a few main sources of your biggest chunks of revenue, right? And then you have these little green shoots that you're trying to grow and nurture and give enough, light and water to. And so, Shira, I wanted to ask you, as you're launching a product or a new revenue stream from nothing, you've got a really cool story with B-Side that I was hoping you'd share with everybody.
Yeah, and first, I appreciate the gardening metaphor. I am, fully into middle age right now, and I love gardening. In any case, B-Side is indeed something that started as a seed of an idea. B-Side is a newsletter aimed at millennials and Gen Z for the most part. If you know one thing about Boston, it's probably that it's a college town, right? So extremely transient population, lots of young people coming in and out of the city all the time. This newsletter is aimed at them and sort of young professionals right above that. And one of my favorite things about the B-Side is how it started. Our company has a biannual Hack Day and idea pitch contest that's put on by my team. And it's just a great time where anyone in the company can pitch an idea to senior leadership. Now, some of these are very thought out. Some of these are like, hey, we should do this. But we crown a winner twice a year, and we also give support to runners-up. Some of the ideas are very straightforward, and we say just do it. Others go through months-long processes of testing and iterations. And the B-Side came out of this contest. It was actually came from our advertising shop, of all places, because they wanted a publication that could really fit more in that creator space than traditional journalism. And it has really done well, has terrific open rates. It's a daily newsletter, has a staff of still under 5, so it's fairly lean. They do terrific work on social as well. They are getting into events over the past year, and they've done some really great brand partnerships. So this is definitely a success story, and we love everything about it. Out of all the Boston Globe media brands I named earlier, it is without a doubt the smallest. But one of the things I love is that we've done it efficiently, too. So they have the support of the larger organization, and they've been able to grow.
I love that. I'm going to have to check that out. So if we're thinking about other opportunities that are kind of in the mix, right, there's so many things, newsletters we mentioned are obviously a great way for not only driving traffic, but really engaged traffic. For us at Q Digital, they'll consume 3 times the amount of content than a social referral, right? So Julie, I want to come back to you. I mean, how are you viewing like newsletters, podcasts as a revenue tool? And does that ever conflict with your user experience teams?
So newsletters are definitely a big part of our engagement and acquisition strategy. We have a portfolio of newsletters. We publish we send one a day, has a different topic or theme, and each one is really set against a different mix of objectives. So from an engagement standpoint, and I guess the way that our subscription works, when you come to the site, we have some content that we call freemium, so you can access that in exchange for your email address, so that's how we capture leads. And then we have a base of content that is premium just for subscribers. So each newsletter has a mix of content. We dial it up or down depending on what the objective is. And we also monetize these newsletters for advertisers. It is an incredibly important source of engagement. It is a huge driver of traffic back to our site, so that we do see that as a continued need to like nurture development of email capture. It has also been a really successful subscription acquisition channel for us. So this decline in traffic is certainly something top of mind, and we're trying to figure out what is the best way to capture email addresses outside of our kind of core freemium model. So newsletter, hot on that. I think we're continuing to look at offshoots of existing newsletters and really doing more segmentation and versioning so that we're hitting different audiences. We do have some pretty discrete audiences. Our print readers who do engage with us online they tend to be older, super loyal to the brand, and their expectations on what the stories are is quite different. So looking at how we, kind of, I guess, personalize newsletters to some extent is definitely an important part of the mix. The other thing that we're starting to explore, and I think many publishers are, is audio and introducing or piloting audio narratives that become a subscription benefit. We have a lot of long-form content, so it lends itself really nicely to that format. We're really looking at, what are the consumer behaviors we need to lean into and be, I think, Keith, you mentioned, really it's about distributed content, so go where people are and not try to always pull them back to the site. So short-term, pilot, learn, and then long-term, if successful, something like that could become its own revenue stream.
Yeah, I'll agreed. I mean, a couple of hot takes, I think. We are seeing more and more as a percentage of our revenue come off platform. And I think that by this time next year, I wouldn't be surprised if more than half of our revenue was happening off-site. And I think, in the past, these platforms were ways to get traffic to your site. And through competition with TikTok coming on and starting to pay creators, and then Reels had to pay creators, and now X is paying creators, and YouTube monetization is now mature. These platforms now have a mature enough or growing maturity monetization platform that content creators take advantage of, because the content creators that have Mr. Beasts of the world that have made a bunch of money, they didn't create their own platform and try to bring people to it. They went to a platform where people were, and they pushed content that catered to those behaviors on those platforms, and they reaped the benefits from monetization. So from our perspective, we have done a couple of things. So, we generate revenue through ads on site. We generate revenue through sponsorships. We generate through subscriptions. We have our newsletters. Seeing two trends, one being the Substack trend of journalists going on and creating their own little newsletter and monetizing it. And then also seeing the podcast trend and the video trend, this being the podcast election is what's being called, because podcasts really drove the results. And so what we did is we have leaned heavily into that. So we launched podcasts, which we distribute on YouTube, distribute on the various podcasting platforms, using what we believe is a competitive advantage, which is Joanna Coles and her network of influence, and able to bring really good conversations into a format. And we've seen growth, within 6 months, we've seen that become a 7-figure business for us. And so I do think that where there's a lot of pressures on publishers and a lot of things to be concerned about, AI, search disruption, et cetera. I think the good part of that is our revenue has never been as diverse in terms of source as it is today. And if we can grow those revenue streams, it's not going to be as quick or as high of a revenue stream as just having them on your own site. But if we can grow multiple of them, the future looks better for us because now we're a content creator. Our brand and our content is what we're selling, and we're selling it across 20 different revenue models on 12 different platforms, able to take pieces of each of them, and really kind of leaning into that is, I think, something that I view as how the Beast is going to be successful in the next decade, having been around for 2 decades prior.
Nice, love that. One thing, a big chunk of revenue, I know for all of us, are events. We haven't gotten a chance to even talk about events yet. Oren, I'll come to you first, and then Shira and Keith, I know you've got some good stuff here too. Oren, what have you learned so far about, the revenue mix with events, sponsorships, ticket sales, cash bar, what's that mix look like for you all?
Yeah, I'll talk about 2 different types of events fairly quickly that we've launched. One that I'd say has been a lot more successful than the other. The other one's good, the first one's great, and I'll explain the difference between both. The one that was the most natural fit to us, again, because we're in comedy and humor, is we launched a live event series every month in New York a little over a year ago. And the last 7 or 8 shows have now sold out. We have a great stable of comedians that we work with. That list continues to grow, whereas we started having to reach out to people. Now they've heard about it and they reach out to us. And the thing that really works well about that, it's just a natural fit to what we do. We are opening the door to work with more influencers and creators. So now we're co-creating content with people that are part of the Cracked Comedy Club, and our audience that has an affinity for a certain comic now can see them on other shows and other content. We film all the shows, so there's life beyond just the event, and I think that's really important. So it's not just the event itself, it's the fact that we get great content, it's high quality, it's evergreen. We distribute it across the video channels I talked about earlier. We launched a channel called Cracked Comedy Club about 6-7 months ago, and that has now just generated more revenue after every month. The revenue's grown. The archives do great, the new content does great, and we expect that to continue to grow. We also have all the audio, and so we have a deal with SiriusXM where we license them the audio of the comedy. And so from a revenue standpoint, there's ticket sales, there's all the revenue that we're generating from video, and then we're in talks with a bunch of advertisers on sponsoring upcoming shows. We haven't closed a deal there yet, but we're very close to closing a handful. So I would look at that as something that we've invested in, we had high hopes for, and that has really been a huge success for the reasons I mentioned, and so much so that we're now growing it to 2 shows a month in New York, and we have our first show in LA on June 14th. If anybody's in LA and you'd like to attend, let me know. I'll be happy to get you a ticket. So that's the comedy event. That's something we're going to continue to aggressively grow and invest in, and our hope a year or 2 from now is more shows in New York, more shows in LA, expand to San Francisco, expand to Chicago, expand to big comedy towns using the same model, grow our audience, grow our video, and it's sort of the gift that keeps on giving. I'll quickly just touch on another event we launched with our cheeseburger brand, which is around pets. We launched an event called the Pet Portrait Series, where we rent out a space and you can buy a ticket and bring your pet to the space. There's food, there's drinks, there's all sorts of fun stuff to do. But the big draw is that we do a high-quality photo shoot with you and your pet. And I will say that when you think about pets, there's a spectrum of how people feel about pets. The far right are, I think we all have friends like this, or maybe some of you are like this, where you cannot walk down the street and see a dog and not be like, oh my God, that dog is so, and then you just love the dog. And then the other side is just someone who walks down the street and goes, yes, that is a dog. I see the dog, I appreciate the dog, I like the dog. I mentioned the spectrum because this event, even to the person on the far left that's just like, this is a dog, could not fall in love with the portraits that get taken and that we then put online and that drive engagement and volume and viewership and everything of the event itself. The reason that I say that it's been good, not great, is that the thing we haven't quite been able to do is just crack the nut on how do we still give the event more life beyond just the photos. Because the event is great. People come, long lines, sold out tickets. Brands love it. But we're still trying to figure out just, you kind of have to be there to really enjoy it. And we've got a video montage of it. And again, we've got these photos, but we're really trying to think, how do we give it just a little bit more life? Like with the comedy show, when we go talk to a brand or we talk to a comic, it's not just the moment, and it's not just like, hey, a day after people remember it. We actually have great video. So if you missed or you weren't there, you still tune in, you still care. And so with the pet portrait thing, that's what we're kind of behind the scenes trying to figure out now, is how do we apply that same playbook and really make that event stand the test of time, so it's not just in the moment. But that's kind of a quick recap of what's really, really worked and what's worked well, but we want it to go to the next level.
Nice. And then Shira and Keith, I think you all are having some good success with events as well.
Yeah, we do well with events, and I'm bullish on events as a future of regional media, absolutely. We only recently started charging for tickets for our events post-pandemic, so just last fall. So you can deduce from that we get bulk of the revenue from sponsorships. We have a lot of terrific partners. The way we think of our events is we have 4+ tentpole events throughout the year. First is the Boston Marathon, right? An event that's very central to our community and our identity. We have Globe Summit, which I co-founded with our VP of events. This is sort of an annual thought leadership conference for people in the region who are determining where it's going to go. This year it's going to be over 2 days at the House of Blues. We have our annual Top Places to Work, which recognizes great local employers. We have the Best of Boston, which is a brand from Boston Magazine. And then we are always looking for new events that could reach that tentpole status. In addition, we have several events that really have a more specific POV that is typically and usually favorably aligned with our coverage. So, for example, we have a rare disease summit. We've done a lot of great coverage of rare disease. We also in STAT, which covers that as well. We have a Future of Medicine summit as well. We have my personal favorite, which is the Working Mom Summit. That is new this year. Terrific audience. We had, as I mentioned, we just started charging for tickets, and we had a wait list of hundreds for that one. It really resonated with our community, so we'll be building that out even more. Famously, the mayor of Boston came and brought her 4-month-old child on stage for the interview. So we are really excited about the future events. We have an entire internal group focused on how to build out these events and make them bigger. And I'll just say we definitely run the gamut in terms of the specific audiences that we do at events. STAT, Life Sciences publication, focuses on a B2B audience. We do more of a general consumer audience with the Working Mom Summit. And then we also do private networking events and all other kinds of one-offs as well. So we can really vary the audience up.
I'll be quick because I think we're getting close on time, but it's fairly nascent for us events, sponsorship driven. We did a 7-figure deal with Uber recently for the Power 100, which is basically 100 influential women in a room, and we think of events as sponsorship revenue, but also the content we can create from them, and that can live to help generate more revenue down the line, similar to Media Post. So that's no ticket sales yet, but that's our revenue stream for events.
Fantastic. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and we're sort of at time at the moment, but I wanted to open it up to the audience for any questions for a few minutes for our panel. Yes.
Thank you. Udi from Premise, video monetization platform. I wanted to know, and anybody can answer, how do you find podcast as an alternative revenue stream?
Yeah, I mean, besides the obvious being the audio ads that are kind of native to that format that you can get across the various platforms, video is where I see it. We video enable our podcasts. They weren't before, and that gives us content to make money on YouTube, make money on TikTok, use the snippets to drive audience to our site. So video and audio ads are the two primary ways.
I'd say we view audio as a multifaceted revenue stream. If you're looking to just sell ads, if you've read anything about the podcast ad market in the last few months or even the last year, it's very crowded, right? And it's depressing price. So I'll give you an example. We recently released a podcast called Snitch City. It's about New Bedford and a sort of crime and corruption, right? Very true crimey. It's done quite well. It is also IP. right? That we can go to Hollywood and sell for that. It is a subscription driver. You have to make your podcasts, which are very expensive to produce if you want to do them well, you have to make them work for every stream, I think, to make them successful.
Thank you.
I'll be quick, sorry. My question is for Shira. I really loved your B-side case study. I'm Stephen from Apartment Therapy, by the way. We just launched a site called Dorm Therapy, so I'm interested, do you pair that site in your offering with some of your hero brands, and do you have plans to kind of pull that younger consumer through the Boston Globe ecosystem with time?
Great question, thank you. Well, first I just want to give credit where it's due. B-Side was the brainchild of Andrew Grillo and Emily Shario. They've done great work building this brand. We do link to Globe stories and Boston.com stories, and we lean on editing resources from those publications, but there is no real formal plan to bring it in as sort of like a package subscription kind of thing. They recently launched a membership program just a couple months ago, so we're going to see how that grows and how that does. A lot of partnerships with small businesses go into that as well, but actually similarly to Stat, I bet most of the people in this room didn't know that Boston Globe Media owns Stat as a life sciences publication, right? So we also have no problem launching brands that don't need that regional media boost next to their name.
Any final questions? All right. Well, Keith, Shira, Julie, Oren, and Justin, thank you so much.